May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Are you related to Frank Zappa? My last name is Zappa, and so I am asked that question quite often, and I always want to answer yes. Yes, guess what? My father-in-law's full name is Francis George Zappa, though he chooses to go by George instead of Frank. Now, of course, I know he's not the Frank Zappa people are asking about, the famous musician, the famously creative and somewhat provocative musician. But the Francis George Zappa I know is extraordinary. He has overcome, even transformed all kinds of adversity and poured himself out to make a good life for family and others. He's a man of deep loyalties and usually lovable quirks. He delights in mowing his grass and turning the tables on telemarketers. Yes, he can be quite provoking himself. If you ask me, he's every bit as interesting as the more famous Frank Zappa. He's a saint in his own right, even if he's not the Frank people have in mind. I think of him today because I suspect that this was kind of a common experience for Simon and Jude, whom we celebrate today, and for the people who knew them. I'm Simon. No, not that Simon, not Simon Peter, the famous disciple and pillar of the church, just Simon. Or, my name is Jude. No, not the Jude or Judas, same word. Not the Judas you're thinking of, the infamous Judas Iscariot. I'm the other Jude. Judas, not Iscariot. That's actually how the evangelist John refers to him in one of the few places that he shows up in the Bible. That is, when he, Judas, not Iscariot, asked Jesus the question that launches the discourse we heard from in this afternoon's gospel. Beyond that, he shows up in the lists of the disciples, sometimes under the name Thaddeus, and always at the end of the list with Simon, numbers 11 and 12 out of 12. Though the evangelist John goes out of his way to distinguish Jude the apostle from Jude the traitor, it seems that Christians long worried about getting them confused and avoided appealing to Jude the apostle at all for that reason. They might go to Mary, Peter, Andrew, James, or John, anyone but Jude. Which is too bad, really. Because as we all know, it's often the quiet, ordinary, definitely not famous saints who make the greatest difference in our lives. The people who don't need to be a star, who are happy to step aside for others, who press on even when no one is paying attention. Saints who are willing for their name to be lost for the sake of the gospel and for others, because they know that no one is lost on God or in God. And sure enough, Jude hasn't been lost at all, has he? On the contrary, he's become this pretty well-known saint, a beloved patron saint of lost causes. Patron saint of lost causes precisely because in the world of saints, Jude himself seemed like a lost cause, a last resort. And so he's been good company for people who feel dangerously close to throwing in the towel on God or on faith or on their situation. As the patron saint of lost causes, Jude encourages us to hold on to God and to pray with persistence even when all seems lost. Because even then, even when all seems lost, even when it seems like we can't do anything else, we can still pray. Indeed, we have to pray. I suspect that everyone here knows what it is to be in the middle of what may seem like a lost cause. Praying for something or someone when we know that our real prayer, our honest prayer, may not be answered in the way we want. But when the cancer doesn't go into remission, when the depression doesn't lift, when the job doesn't come, when the marriage falls apart, or our loved one dies anyway, does that mean that our prayers or our actions on others' behalf didn't matter? Or weren't effective? Or that God didn't hear them? Of course not. Of course not. Our prayers keep us connected to God and to faith, and they carry those whom we are praying for and lift them up and give them hope. Give us hope that we are not alone. They give us hope that others will stand and pray with us as we stand and pray with others. Hope that by the grace of God, the lost cause will give way to a new cause, to new life. You see, no cause is so lost that we cannot pray. No person is so lost that we cannot pray for them, even if that person is ourselves. With St. Jude, we can look our lost causes square in the face, and we can hope and pray at the same time, because God is faithful. God is faithful, and no one and nothing is ever completely lost to God. Thanks be to God. Amen.